McDonald's coffee.
The Broncos are going to lose today.
Never.
It's nothing special. Small. 49ers are biased on KD. That is a stupid idea. No. If I can't take it when my team, I'll give the coach the benefit of the doubt. Madden 21 was so bad.
I'm so like I'm getting my body.
Has he played? Has he started in the
Right to tell ya.
Tag him on Instagram. Second, on all these tantrums. I could have. Monte Foreman coming out of Texas.
Truly appreciate y'all.
What is up, y'all?
What is up, y'all? That one dude 2020 here at MI6 Sports Network. We're doing a thing. We're going to try and do it every single Wednesday at about 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, an NFL Q&A. So if y'all have any football questions, things about free agency for the draft or this past season, any NFL comments, any NFL concerns, any NFL questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of them right here live on the MI6 Sports Network. But my quick thoughts, though, about the Denver Broncos, I have to be honest here, folks. If John Elway is really sold on Drew Lock being the franchise quarterback, you have to protect the quarterback. Just like we just saw in this Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Bucks. We're not talking about the whole penalties and all that. Point is protecting the quarterback. I understand what John Elway and the Denver Broncos front office did. You got what you did on defense. You got Fuller. You signed Kareem Jackson again. You signed Justin Simmons to a deal. I mean, Kareem Jackson on a 1-year, $5 million deal. So the Broncos defense is great. But let's talk about the offense here, folks, which is a problem. You let Philip Lindsay go in free agency. And on top of that, Philip Lindsay goes to the Houston Texans. And you're left with Melvin Gordon, who, of course, I know last year got more share of the carries. So maybe that's where his numbers are much better than what they could have been if they truly split the carries. You saw with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara in 2017. Now, that maybe they're saying this. Maybe I'm just putting words in the organization's mouth. But this tells me that they are saying that Melvin Gordon could be the future starting running back of this team. And if that is the case, let me give some advice to John Elway and the Denver Broncos offense. I've said this many times, but this couldn't be more true. If you're convinced that Drew Lock is the starting franchise quarterback, address the offensive line first. Jerry Jeudy's going to be back next year. We got Cortland Sutton coming off a torn ACL. He could be 100% here. You have Noah Fant. You have the guys you signed on defense. Prioritize the offensive line. We don't want the same thing where, we draft another quarterback again. Do we go through the same process where John Elway has, for some reason, struggled to find a starting franchise quarterback? We can go all the way back to Paxton Lynch in 2016. That didn't work out. Of course, Trevor Siemian was a starter in 2016. 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. You go to Paxton Lynch that very next year, and Paxton Lynch absolutely stinks up the joint. And I believe is either a free agent right now or is a second or third string quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. You can go back to Brock Osweiler, who drafted in 2012 and, of course, was supposed to be the successor of Peyton Manning. He substitutes for Peyton Manning in 2015, and that's pretty good. Chris Anderson has that running touchdown against the New England Patriots. Anytime when the Patriots win or lose, it is always, when they lose, for me, it's a phenomenal, interesting thing. But now, you have 8 to 9 different starting quarterbacks since 2016. If John Elway somehow knew how to draft or trade for a quarterback, it would have happened already. I love my Broncos, but that does not mean my team is not at fault. That doesn't mean my team is not at fault. That does not mean my team is perfect in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to be like some of my one person here with the network that is just going to be inconsistent. Oh, my team lost. So it's because of correction or blah, blah, blah. It is because the Denver Broncos, for some reason, they're great at defense. They're okay at the running back position. I wouldn't say lucked out. They did very good at Philip Lindsay. Mind you, Philip Lindsay was an undrafted rookie free agent, I believe in 2017 or 2018 out of, I think, Colorado or Colorado State. So he's a phenomenal running back. But besides that, you go all the way back then with John Elway, and you did with Terrell Davis with almost 8,000 rushing yards. But the point is, why I'm venting my frustrations is that Denver Broncos, for some reason, had this inability to where they're so close to reaching the full potential to becoming a playoff contending team. And then John Elway gets in his own way. I love my Broncos. I would love to work with them one day, but I have to be honest here, folks. If any Denver Broncos fans that are out there that are watching this video, I would love to hear your honest and genuine opinion. Do y'all think Drew Lock is the guy? And if he is, what should the Denver Broncos prioritize in the 2021 NFL drafts coming up? I'm not saying Drew Lock is the guy, but I would say if for right now, protect him be the starting franchise quarterback and get a veteran quarterback to mentor him. Not because I'm convinced of Drew Lock, just because, in my genuine opinion, and maybe this is an unpopular, or maybe this is somebody that everybody is going to 100% disagree with. John Elway was part of the problem. Let's just be honest here, folks. What Christy Wilson says, I can say the same thing about the Cowboys. They are not perfect, without a doubt. But Christy, if you're the Cowboys here, if there is one position you would want to address, regardless if it's on offense or defense, for the Dallas Cowboys, which position would you pick? And Christy Wilson, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. The Cowboys had Aldon Smith had a comeback year, had 5.5 sacks, did a phenomenal, made a decent impact on the defense, hasn't played since 2015, 2016. But the Dallas Cowboys are not bringing him back next year. And then you see the Dallas Cowboys signing other veteran defensive players. So somehow Aldon Smith was asking for this crazy amount of money, which I don't believe he was. He's a guy that hasn't played in a while, played great, shined, and then now he's going into free agency. So maybe John Elway, if you want to get another great defensive player, get Aldon Smith. Had a great year last year. Christy Wilson also says John Elway seems to have a talent for squandering good talent, without a doubt. And the question, and to kind of really add to that point, when we talk about squandering, maybe wasting some of their prime years. Because let's just say a hypothetical for the Broncos. Let's say they don't give an extension to Melvin Gordon. Let's say he's not their future franchise running back of the NFL. Then now you put him in a more impossible position, because this year, if Drew Lock is the guy, obviously, like I said, you have to protect him. But what is going to be your identity as an offense? And we know their bread and butter, I know this as a Broncos fan, is going to be their defense. But you still have to have an offense. It doesn't matter how great your defense is. If the offensive production does not match a little bit of what the defense is trying to do, you're not going to see this team go very far. So now you have your defense. You know what the defense is going to do. We know what the defense is about. But let's look at the offense. What is going to be their bread and butter? Is it going to be the running game? Because Melvin Gordon had almost 1,000 yards last year, over 200 carries. Is it going to be the pass scheme? Is Drew Lock going to improve on his mobility? I just keep mentioning these type of questions because they're hypothetical, they're interesting, and who really knows? But bread and butter. Is it the running game? Is it Drew Lock and his leadership on the field? Who knows? But Christy Wilson also says Drew Lock is, to me, not the guy. Well, Christy, I agree with you. It's just the problem is now the position the Denver Broncos put themselves in. What is a better alternative? And I would rather have Mitchell Trubisky than Drew Lock right now. I would rather have Daniel Jones than Drew Lock. I'd rather have Jared Goff on a 1-year deal than Drew Lock. But now, if they're going to move on from Drew Lock, Christy, is that maybe it's just an unpopular opinion. But I think this quarterback draft class this year, to me, is not very interesting. And I believe the Denver Broncos don't necessarily have a top 3 to 4 pick, maybe top 6, top 10. So with John Elway's track record of drafting at the quarterback position, it always seems to be in the later rounds. The only high round quarterback John Elway or the organization drafted was Tim Tebow in 2010. Tim Tebow, who knows, is a phenomenal man, phenomenal Christian, great man. But as a quarterback on the field, it just wasn't meant to be for the Denver Broncos. This question here, I really like what Christy has to say here. Christy Wilson also says, What about Deshaun Watson to the Broncos? Folks, I would love that. Now the question is, as I get to more of my thoughts, is if the Denver Broncos were to pursue Deshaun Watson, which I believe they should. Let me explain why in a minute. What are you gonna have to give up? Is it either gonna be a first round pick? Let's think about this, and maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm being dramatic. When the Matthew Stafford trade happened, it ruined other potential quarterback trades, potential quarterback signings, because look how much the Lions got for Matthew Stafford, a quarterback who's never won in the playoffs. Now, I'm a fan of Matthew Stafford, but I'm saying in terms of whether it's his fault or not, they did not win in the playoffs. But look how much the Lions got for Stafford. So my question is here, with the ego of the Houston Texans organization, how much are they going to be asking for Deshaun Watson? And how much is John Elway willing to give up? I would love Deshaun Watson with the organization. I understand Jerry Jeudy, hopefully he improves on his hands. He just wasn't able to catch the ball very effective last year. You have Noah Fant, Melvin Gordon. Is he going to get more involved in the passing game? I would love Deshaun Watson to the Denver Broncos. But I know I said I wouldn't talk about this, but folks, we know the situation with Deshaun. And here's my opinion, folks. I am blown away how dysfunctional an organization is. And I will say this, no matter what, folks, any crime should be taken 100% seriously. But this Houston Texans organization, let's just say if Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be there, you cannot force a quarterback. You cannot force an NFL player to be there. You cannot force a guy. This isn't in school or at home or, Mom, I didn't want to make my bed. You're going to make your bed because that's what your mom asked you to. But this is real life. This is an organization. What I don't get, and I understand some teams will be neglectful to trade for Deshaun Watson because of the allegations. But my thing is, I understand allegations, you should take them seriously. But if, keyword, I'm saying if, I have no evidence, I'm not accusing nobody. But if this is proven that these allegations were false, imagine what some of the teams would be thinking. Oh, now some people, and this is the problem with nowadays with people, we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. Now, obviously, if you commit a crime and you assault somebody, yeah, there's going to be earthly consequences for that, no doubt. But a lot of times, certain players, this is not because they're famous. They're always like, oh, he's accused of it. He must be guilty. So apparently nowadays, if you're famous, you're automatically guilty. And I point this out to somebody. And no human is perfect. In my genuine opinion, again, I don't have the facts. J.J. Watt is the excellent judge of character. Not a perfect, no human is perfect. But since he's an excellent judge of character, puts him in his inner circle. Why would he put him in his inner circle? This is such a guy that is not who we thought he was. We've done that with a lot of other different players in the past that we're not going to talk about. But John Elway and the Denver Broncos, if you do decide to go after Deshaun Watson, think about how much do you have to give up? How many draft picks or how many players? Is the risk worth the reward, and vice versa? In my opinion, I believe it could be, because the question is now, the entire AFC West has a starting franchise quarterback. The Chiefs, we got Mahomes, Herbert, Derek Carr. Out of all of those guys and Drew Lock, which team has the worst quarterback in the division? Shouldn't even be a question. Shouldn't even be no contest at all. Drew Lock is the worst quarterback in the AFC West. Drew Lock is not the guy. And how is he going to compete? But the one thing I really want people to understand is that if the Broncos are really going to compete next year, offense. What John Elway to do is to get in his own head. If the Broncos are going to compete, they're going to have to not play risk-free. They're going to have to go for chances. They cannot play it safe. Now, I'm not saying don't do what your offense identity should be. But my question is, now, John Elway. This is probably going to be the most difficult season you've had, maybe in a while. 2016, Peyton Manning retired. You went 9-7, was one game away from the playoffs. Trevor Siemian over 3,300 yards passing, 26 TDs and 13 interceptions. But now, for the first time in a while, the Broncos have the worst quarterback in the division. So no matter what you do on offense in terms of the receivers, running back, fullback, tight end, no matter who you sign on defense, no matter who you get on special teams or whatever position, you still have the worst quarterback in the AFC West. So now the question is, are the Denver Broncos going to panic? Are the Denver Broncos going to flip now? If you're going to have that worst quarterback in the division, you still need to find another guy. But I think here's the question now. I keep saying here's the question. The Denver Broncos, no matter who they draft, they do not successful. Think about it. John Elway, who drafted Tim Tebow? How did that work out with the organization? The organization, for some reason, I understand they drafted John Elway. He won 2 Super Bowls. I understand. But besides John Elway, who's obviously in the Hall of Fame and deserves it without a doubt, what other quarterback in the Denver Broncos history has been a long-term starting answer, has been a long-term starting for the franchise position, for the franchise quarterback for the Denver Broncos? You have John Elway, or you can't barely say, not even say Tim Tebow, because Tim Tebow had the 1 year, of course, that one pass to Demaryius Thomas, again, the wild card round versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin and Tony Brown and all of those guys. But now, I want to know what is going on in the Denver Broncos organization's head. Yes, this is a team I want to work for because I love my team no matter what. But just because I love my team doesn't mean there aren't things I want them to improve on. Good point. Kristen Wilson says Josh McDaniels convinced the Broncos to draft Tim Tebow. Maybe that's why Josh McDaniels hasn't left New England since, because he knows the last time he made a huge decision like that, how did it work out with the Denver Broncos? Yet short-term success. No quarterback the Broncos organization has drafted besides John Elway has worked out. You traded for quarterbacks. You had a phenomenal trade in the 2012 offseason for Peyton Manning. I'm glad that worked out. But we're talking drafting an NFL starting quarterback. The Broncos, for some reason, an organization has that one little tick, has that one little thing they can't seem to get out. They can't seem to get over. They can't seem to overcome. And that one thing for the Denver Broncos, like I continue to say, is drafting a NFL starting franchise quarterback. I'm not saying fire John Elway. Do not do that. But what I'm saying is that if John Elway has to make a decision, do they want to win? And let's even go back. Some people are saying that, oh, he just cares about making money and for the organization. Fine. But if you're an owner or GM, you can make even more money if your team is winning. Now, they say they hire a GM, so the GM is going to make a lot of decisions. But let's go back, like I talked about with Jerry Jones. All final decisions go all the way back to John Elway. Final decisions. So even if the current Broncos GM makes the decision, they have to finalize it with John Elway. If I am John Elway here, I really am curious. Who does he think the starting franchise quarterback is going to be? But enough of my rants, though. If y'all have any questions, any NFL questions during the point of this quick 20 to 30 minute video, I'm more than happy to answer any of your NFL questions. We try to do this every single Wednesday, 20 to 40 minutes, NFL Q&A. But if y'all have any football questions during the program, I'm more than happy to answer them. We'll be right back after this quick break. Again, an NFL Q&A, that one due 2020, right here on the MI6 Sports Network. If y'all have any football questions in the last couple of minutes of this program, I'm more than happy to answer any of them. Anything that pertains to NFL free agency, to the draft, to the past season, to the coming season. Any NFL fan, if you have any questions about your team or anything like that, the questions will be answered live right here on the MI6 Sports Network. That one due 2020. But with the NFL drafts coming up, there's definitely a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. Some people think where's Trevor Lawrence going to go? They're concerned about Urban, myself. All of those things can pertain. But before we kind of continue on here, we do have a lot of guests coming up here on the show down to 2020 right on the MI6 Sports Network. So I'll kind of announce a few of them to you. Mike, that has worked in the NFL for a very long time from The Ohio State University, will be coming on the show very soon. So details for that. We also have a triple header April 3rd. We have Camille Phillip, who is a future NFL star in the NFL at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We have John from Sports Talk Chicago at 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time that day. And that for the last third and final one, Dean Blandino at 3:30 p.m., who is a college football rule analyst, does a college football show every single Saturday doing the college football season. So there's definitely a lot of football guests coming on very soon. We got a lot more guests coming up in April. We're booked all the way up in April towards the end of March. James Coe will be joining the show this Friday, 12 p.m. noon Central Standard Time. So if y'all have any of your questions or anything of that is a concern, more than happy to answer any of those. Christian Wilson make a good question here, a player who I've talked about before. Christian Wilson says, do you think Jadeveon Clowney would be a good fit for the Dolphins if he signs with them? Chrissy, this is a fun topic I've talked about for the past year. My answer really is no. This guy is a guy who has not lived up to the hype. He's getting closer and closer to being a bust. Some people say, oh, look at this, or look at that. You had Wilkin Year in 2016, coming out of South Carolina, first overall pick in 2014, injury prone. We called it the Jadeveon Clowney effect. Seattle signed him in 2019, correct? And what happened with that? Was he questionable with his health in that playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles when Carson Wentz went down and Josh McCown came in to start? How did that game work? Was Jadeveon Clowney a big factor in this game? Mind you, folks, last year in the 2020 offseason, who did the Tennessee Titans sign on a 1-year, almost $15 million deal? That was Jadeveon Clowney. It was the same thing we saw in Seattle that we saw in Tennessee this year. They struggled to get to the quarterback. That's supposed to be a main factor, icing on the cake, for that type of player that Jadeveon Clowney is. Jadeveon Clowney has not lived up to the hype. I don't believe he would be a good signing with the Dolphins, because here's the expectations. They're going to be so low with Jadeveon Clowney with the Miami Dolphins, because if the Dolphins sign Jadeveon Clowney, what kind of player are they going to get? Are they going to get 2014 or 2016? The question is now is, what's the reward? That's all they're looking at right now. This Dolphins team was so close to playoffs last year. Are they also? How much is he going to expect? Jadeveon Clowney last year also had a nice slice of humble pie. I think he's a great dude, but I'm talking about just him as a player, and people need to understand. Just because I'm critical of someone as a player does not mean I think they're a bad person. I think he's a good, genuine dude. But I'm talking about as a player, he had a nice slice of humble pie last year when he was demanding all this money. Seattle wouldn't pay him, or any NFL team wouldn't pay him the amount he was asking for. June and July, he signs with the Tennessee Titans to Jadeveon Clowney effect. Did we hear from him last year? Did we hear, Jadeveon Clowney gets the quarterback and bam, seals the deal? How did it work out against the Colts? How did it work out against the Ravens? Did you hear Jadeveon Clowney's name? Did he make effect? I believe the Dolphins, Christian Wilson, will consider your question here, will consider signing Jadeveon Clowney, but the question is really how much, because the risk is worth more than reward. Jadeveon Clowney is not a bust in the NFL, but I believe that he's headed towards that direction without a doubt. But of course, I wouldn't say an Isaiah roast sesh, but just kind of a couple of videos to do an Isaiah roast sesh. Mind you, folks, Isaiah also did this.
Anna, I love you so much. You have been the biggest and best blessing of my life. You know, from coming down with me from Canada to move to Las Cruces and support me and support our Aggies. You have been the best girlfriend I could have asked for. Now, I ask you, Anna Cathcart, would you take the honor and marry me and be my wife?
We don't have to keep watching that, folks. But again, the quick NFL 20 to 30 minute Q&A. If y'all have any NFL questions about your team free agency, any NFL fan, even if your team's the Raiders, the Bucks, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Colts, the Bills, any NFL team, any NFL fan, if you have any questions regarding free agency, the draft, will be answered here right now on the live NFL Q&A right on the MI6 Sports Network. But again, any NFL Q&A, you have any final questions as we finally approach this 30-minute mark, more than happy to answer any of them. And Chrissy, I still can't believe it either. Still can't believe Isaiah proposed to a teddy bear. Mind you, he wants his name, his kid, Keckham. And Isaiah, I think, was doing a little bit of shopping for his future kid, because apparently he wanted to name his kid Keckham. And also, Isaiah also got blocked by Keenan Slovis on LinkedIn. But again, folks, the NFL Q&A, if you have any questions or concerns regarding your teams, the NFL draft, or anything like that, as we finish the 30-minute mark, I'm more than happy to answer any of them at any time. But again, that one dude 2020 with the MI6 Sports Network NFL Q&A right here. That would be 2020. Any questions, concerns regarding NFL free agency, the draft, or anything like that in the final 2.5 minutes will be answered live onto the show. And again, thank y'all for watching for tonight. But before we kind of end tonight's show, let's go to tonight's or this evening's or this morning's final thoughts. Yeah, the first ever NFL Q&A back here, that one dude 2020, right on the MI6 Sports Network. But before we kind of get to final thoughts here, got some more questions coming in. Chrissy, I completely forgot about this one, but good point. What are your thoughts on CJ Beathard signing with the Jaguars? This is the guy in 2018 that Isaiah said was a savior for the 49ers. The question, I mean, the biggest thing now is obviously, turnovers. His capability in the pocket really isn't there. But he's shown in certain moments where CJ Beathard does have an arm. Now, it's going to be an awkward situation. You had, of course, the mustache and Gardner Minshew in 2019 that completely lit it up. It had over 25 touchdowns and over 3,300 yards passing and had a phenomenal year. Then now you have a backup in CJ Beathard. Now, we both know, Chrissy, I think it's a decent signing. It's just, I mean, it's not bad. It's nothing fashionable. But what I really know, we know the Jaguars are going to draft a quarterback. And we both, or any NFL fan, should know, Gardner Minshew is not going to accept a backup role for the Jacksonville Jaguars based on what he did in 2019. If you really want to look at his stats real quick, Gardner Minshew, I'm not saying he's a leader. Or he said future Peyton Manning or any of these different type of quarterbacks that have played in the past that had Hall of Fame careers. But if you look at his stats, they're not like, oh, they weren't bad. They were great NFL stats here. Of course, I know last year was a struggle, injuries and everything. 16 touchdowns and 5 picks. I know less than 2,300 yards passing, so not too great. But overall, 66 completion percentage, almost 63 completion percentage overall. I know this year you said, oh, they struggle with trying to even get into games and much less trying to compete in any of these games. Of course, he had injuries. You're talking about against. I'm looking at the stats here. Houston, the Lions, the Chargers, Tennessee, and the Ravens. Well, folks, what is the many things the Jaguars have struggled with? No matter who they get at the starting quarterback position, what's the thing they struggle with? Protecting the quarterback. What is that called here, folks? the offensive line. I don't think Gardner Minshew is going to set the backup role. I think C.J. Beathard to the Jaguars is not a bad signing, but I would have been more hilarious if Joe Flacco was signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I do remember, y'all folks, Joe Flacco was signed to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I give my final thoughts here before we go to tonight's final thoughts again, folks, is that the Eagles are in panic mode. The plan they had for Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson was already almost doomed from the start. The organization, the owner, wants a little puppet as a head coach. You drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round, who I've never been high on. We go back to, I say, if you look at the stats last year in college, they weren't bad. I said, Jalen Hurts only played well against teams with 5 wins or less in the regular college football season. If those type of habits are already in college, like I said, habits from college, from NCAA, translate to the NFL. If you don't address them, you can say, oh, the stats, whatever. Jalen Hurts was horrendous. Jalen Hurts was awful. I mean, you can go back to college. There was nothing memorizing about him. There's a reason why he was a second-round pick. Even if you have him as a starter, like, what does Jalen Hurts do that's special? What does Jalen Hurts do that is different from other NFL players here? But this shows me that the Eagles are in panic mode. We don't know what they're going to do with the starting franchise quarterback position. They're barely 1,000 yards, less than 78 quarterback rating. You can say part of that was because of the offensive line. Oh, he's a rookie. You're being too rough. No, this is an NFL. This is the NFL here, folks. This is not the flag football league. This is a real national football league here. You either have to adjust or you need to move on here, folks. This is just the NFL. I don't like Jalen Hurts. I've never liked him as a quarterback at all, either in college or in the NFL. So I don't know what the Eagles are seeing in him. And this is a thing. This is just beyond football here, folks. Is that not everything that's new is better. Not everything that is shiny is better. Like all this technology, you got the microphone, the phone, the AirPods, all these new technology things that are on the planet. Just because they're new, just because it's different, doesn't mean it's better. And that's kind of the viewpoint that Jacksonville Jaguars are having with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts clearly was not the starting quarterback. But now that the relationship was so toxic, and even on top of that, for the organization, Christy, is that it was so toxic, the organization is not willing to either put blame or sit down, swallow their pride, swallow their ego, and to realize, what did we do wrong? What did we screw up on so we can do different in the future? And this is the difference between a child and an adult. When you make tremendous mistakes, you make mistakes. You address them. You don't put blame on someone else. But this is not what the organization is doing with the Eagles. They're going to blame everybody else. Harry Rosie is just going to blame everybody else, no matter who they bring in as head coach. You think it's going to be any different? Like I talk about with the Jaguars or certain NFL teams, no matter who the coach is or the team is, it's the same organization. I try to tell people, sign Nick Foles to a deal, let Carson Wentz finish out his rookie year, then he can go to the free agent market. And what did the Eagles do? They don't have to listen to me, but they did the exact opposite. They paid Carson Wentz a fat deal. Of course, Nick Foles goes automatically to the Jacksonville Jaguars here. But, of course, Isaiah comments as the MI6 Sports Network, Ken Slovis to Denver, please, George Patton. It's funny how you're talking trash about Ken Slovis going to Denver, but yet, who did you get blocked by on LinkedIn? But, of course, George Patton, don't listen to this guy. This guy drinks virgin pina coladas. This guy's the same one that has also proposed to a Teddy Pepper. Folks, that's just the reality with the Eagles. You had a good, great quarterback in Nick Foles. I'm not saying Nick Foles is a Hall of Famer. You had a good quarterback in a good system that helped him succeed. You saw him 27 touchdowns and 2 picks that year in 2013, 2014 in a system with that organization that worked out perfect for Nick Foles. And then now you let him go because somehow you're convinced of a quarterback in Carson Wentz who cannot stay healthy. Christopher Wilson says, no. I couldn't agree more. Of course, here, Isaiah, you need to lay off the McDonald's coffee and the virgin pina coladas. Again, folks, as this program kind of comes to a close, if y'all have any football questions, NFL, or concerns, I'm more than happy to answer any of them. In the first ever NFL Q&A here on the MI6 Sports Network, that one to 2020. Before we go, like we do on every show on the MI6 Sports Network, let's go to tonight's final thoughts. Again, these are always all so much fun. John Alcorn, That One Dude 2020, always here with the MI6 Sports Network NFL Q&A. Thank you all so much for your questions and your amazing comments. I want to thank, of course, Christy Wilson and Isaiah with the MI6 Sports Network here. Go all the way back, but thank you, Christy. Y'all are warriors, y'all are phenomenal. Y'all always tune into every single episode, so it means more to us than y'all and genuinely realize. But again, That One Dude 2020 on the MI6 Sports Network. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see y'all soon. Have a good one. And I'll see y'all very soon. Have a good one. Y'all, That One Dude 2020 around the MI6 Sports Network. Have a good one. And I will see y'all later.
McDonald's coffee.
The Broncos are going to lose today.
Never.
It's nothing special. Small. 49ers are biased on KD.
That is a stupid idea. You're
No. If I can't take it when my team, I'll give the coach the benefit of the doubt.
Madden 21 was so bad.
I'm gonna show last time I'm getting my body.
Has he played? Has he started in the right to tell ya?
Tag them on Instagram. Second, and all these tantrums. I could have.
Monte Foreman coming out of Texas.
Truly appreciate the